Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy MKS here, back with another video. I was going to do that when I clap and try and be dramatic or whatever, try and get myself some energy or whatever. But I actually had my cat on my shoulder. I was trying to introduce him again, but I know I've introduced him before, but he jumped off my shoulder, this silly boy. I was going to say silly, but it's not really. He's my baby. I was going to say, this is the baby Minsky, but then he jumped off. So thankfully he didn't knock my tea over, but it's a bit lucky. But anyway. I've got to admit this is behind schedule because it's already past midnight. In fact, it's actually past 1 in the morning here. So I'm going to try and finish this off, and maybe part 4 if I can. I can think of things to cover. Yeah, I hope you like it. And these are pointers number 21 to 30, and I wanted to talk about things like dyslexia empowerment, black empowerment, as I've been trying to do for October. It's a strange one. I mean, just like many months, it seems like the month has kind of dragged on and took ages, and then at the same time, it's sort of finished a lot quicker than I was hoping because it's coming towards the end of the month. Like 3 days left, 3 or 4 days of the month, but I was a bit lazy today. I didn't go to gym as well, so I'm hoping to go tomorrow. But so yeah, I'm hoping to go to a neurodiversity event and then go to the gym after, and then try and pick up my prescription. Nice life story, but anyway, sorry, I'm trying to get to the point. But yeah, I'm hoping to cover things like dyslexic empowerment, black empowerment, and deals I'd love to make, what I call 1, 2, or 4, 1 or share, which I've been talking about. I know I titled it sort of something to do with message to meta and that kind of thing, and a range of ideas. But anyway, these are points number 21 to 30 as per usual. And here you go. So number 21 again, as the saying goes. I pretty much always say that one, but in this case, I'm going to recap. So I for each receipt, envelope, notebook, and basically piece of work, basically piece of work, or whatever that I get to do, including videos like this, even each idea I get to express, or whatever. But let's say each piece of work, so even like a little receipt or an envelope or a notebook like this, whoever helps me, I hope to share information on their behalf, just like if they help me to share my ideas. So just as they're helping me share my ideas, I'd love to share information as fairly as possible. I know so many, I say so many. I know Islam and Christianity both claim to be the true religion or whatever, but yeah, whichever one. So for each one they help me to share, I would share like a Quran or a Bible or whatever, and same for any other religion. Similar with business cards, flyers, leaflets, information about business or whatever. And I'd love to do also what I call line for line as well. So for each, I sort of briefly touched on that, but I forgot to say what it's called, which is line for line. So for each line they help me to write, I would share a line of whatever they wanted me to share. And I'd love to do something like that if I can plan it out and organize it with video creation. So like for each idea they help me to express, if Facebook or YouTube or whoever says we've helped you to express this idea, to talk about this idea or whatever, and we'd like you to post something positive about us, I would love to do that, to say thank you. But I hope to go through those ideas as best as I can. But moving on, number 22, as I say, I hope to continue to express it and explain these ideas, as I put it, express and explain these ideas. For some reason I put express in speed box, I don't know why, but anyway, express and explain these ideas. I love to express myself as best I can, although I can be a bit shy, but as well as possible. Number 23, my thoughts are with the people of the Caribbean, especially Jamaica at the moment. Apparently they have Category 5 storm, hurricane, in fact, Category 5 hurricane. So I hope to God, I hope and pray the people of Jamaica and the Caribbean, touch wood as they say, and God willing and Godspeed, they won't, it won't be as bad as it's predicted. Hopefully it will die down. Hopefully the storm will pass away, or die down, or whatever. The storm itself rather than the people suffering. Although I think life is more scary in many ways, to be honest with you. Sorry for the pessimism. Yeah, my thoughts are for people suffering around the world and that kind of thing. And I'd love to make the world better for people and animals, just like I say with my 5 causes. Point number 5, cause number 5, which I I've talked about before. But also, like, even with my writings, and I have a dilemma because, like, a part of me wants to like write on pretty much everything, or papers, at least paper-based products, receipts, envelopes, notebooks, and things like that, and that kind of thing. But then I don't want to chop trees down or get in people's way, so it's a bit of a dilemma. But I wish everyone well and all that kind of thing, and I think it'll be cool if my fellow much most people and dyslexics, for instance, made the world a better place. Looked at how we can make the world a better place, just like I was talking about with my friend Alicia. Hopefully in the future I'll share the link for her channel. For her channel. Sorry, what's wrong with my speech? But yeah, we did a couple of videos on discussing about dyslexia and dyslexia empowerment and that kind of thing, or a range of things. And I'd love to do more discussions, maybe even some more general, unplanned and unscripted things where we just say what's on our mind. Sometimes I'd love to be able to just write whatever comes to my mind on like rough piece of paper or whatever, just whatever thoughts I have and whatever. But I'd love to help people and think about the Caribbean. And I was going to initially say it's in point number 21, and I thought I'd say in point number 24. But I think I'll say it in point. Sorry, my foot's really itchy and sore today. Just scratching my foot. I thought I would talk about, like, I have an idea for supporting like Caribbean networks and things like that. But I'd love to do fundraising for the Caribbean and for entrepreneurs and things like that. So I'd love to. I suppose I did put it in the description, so hopefully that shows clearly in the description. Sorry, man, this one when he shares a bit fidgeting a bit. I was thinking of putting this laptop down, but obviously you won't get to see me as well. But I suppose the main thing in these videos is like what I talk about, because I'm expressing my ideas, I guess. But I do like to have these visual things like my campus and all that kind of thing. But yeah, I mentioned about like how I'd love to have. I'd love to fundraise for. I suppose. Well, I talked about in the description having these sorts of things. So I love for the Caribbean. I love to promote the idea that Caribbean countries, as well as like African countries, have like networks together, but also like things like business hubs, support networks, networking opportunities where they learn from each other and things like that, which I talked about recently. Seeing what they can learn from each other. So I think like a business hub could be a place where people go and share ideas and promote their products and talk about ways to, let's say, for instance, promote Jamaican products around the world, hopefully. So hopefully they'll recover as well as possible. I would say hopefully the storm won't cause too much damage. But I know the saying, like, a friend in need is a friend in need. I don't know if I entirely agree with that, but it's kind of interesting saying, I guess, perhaps. But yeah, I think it'd be cool if they built like their own hubs, networks, support networks, hubs, and things like that. And promoted their own ventures. And I thought of a play on words like Caribbean, like break it up into two, like Carib-Bean for some reason, I don't know why, but and so sometimes spell it with like Carib and then Bean with the capital B or whatever, like Carib and then Bean as two different words. But the idea, I thought like it could be a brand and a team of people who promote Caribbean businesses, products, items, goods, services, and that kind of thing all around the world, and look at how to basically promote Jamaican and other Caribbean exports around the world, and again learn from each other, network together, and that kind of thing. And yeah, so if they have hubs and networks, networking spaces, networks generally, and that kind of thing, I hope it will help. And also African countries could have their own tech hubs, and business hubs and tech hubs. So I jumped ahead of myself there. Which I think would be pretty cool. But I'd love to know, as ever, what you think about each other idea. At least, and once again, like any organization, whether that's Meta, YouTube, Microsoft, IBM, or whoever. I know I put my message to Meta, but any organization which supports Jamaican and other Caribbean entrepreneurs to network together, fundraisers for hubs and things like that, or whatever it might be. I would love to return the favour and promote those and help with their PR and that kind of thing. So there could be some sort of encouragement on that. And yeah, I'd love to encourage companies to do that, like fund those sorts of things. Like I think that's my dyslexic creativity again. But I got like Caribbean sort of ideas and networks about the ideas about the hubs and networking centres, and encouraging companies to fund those sorts of things. I think would be cool. I just remember the point I was going to say, which is like Britain. There was a controversy about Britain. People talk about reparations for the Caribbean and that kind of thing, including Jamaica. But I would say if there's any justice, if there was a storm, it would hit Britain instead of Jamaica. But then I live in Britain, so I should be careful what I say. It hit home when like they was talking about Putin like bombing Britain, and there's like that's quite scary. Obviously living here, but I wouldn't want anyone to suffer wherever they're from. To be fair, and if anyone was going to be punished, probably it would be. I don't know if I should say it's like the royal family or people like that who have made money and built wealth and land and that kind of thing on the backs of other people suffering. Controversial view, but I'd love for everyone to be well, as I say. As I said before, it's a bit of a dilemma when royals are dyslexic or whatever, as I do normally want to empower dyslexics, but then I'm not a big fan of royalty or royalism or whatever, which is a bit of a dilemma when it comes to religion. Like, one of the things is like all the rules, and I wish there was more freedom, and I disagree with, say, Christianity on what freedom is and how it's different to me. Like someone said, freedom is doing the right thing, but to me, freedom is doing what you want to do. It's not what's right for other people necessarily, it's what's right for you. Like they say in Satanism, apparently it says the rule it's summed up by do what thou will, but to me that is freedom, so it's a bit of a dilemma. Although I do think you should treat people well, but I think that should be from your own personal choice, not what other people say. Like, just like I say, I love for dyslexics to be philanthropists. I wouldn't really want it to be forced onto people. I'd want them to choose to be philanthropists. And then it might even be like if a dyslexic guy's a billionaire, or even a dyslexic lady's a millionaire, or even a billionairess or billionairess or whatever. They might say, yeah, I'll give some of that away, but I'll still have my big house and nice car, or big houses or nice cars or whatever. But me personally, I'd love for us to give so much of our money away, like even just live on the bare basics. Like if it wasn't for my hoarding of notebooks, I could live a very frugal life with very few things. Just like, well, I was going to say just writings, but then notebooks, it would be different. But I could live off just like my YouTube videos and Facebook and whatever, if I can get my channel back. But anyway, moving on. Sorry, I did cover that quite a lot. Talking about being behind schedule, going to sleep late again, as per usual. Have too much tea or whatever. Before I move on to point number 24, I'll probably just finish by saying, so yeah, on that subject, on that note about tea, I do try and think through these videos, sorry, but yeah, on the subject of tea, like sometimes when I put water in the kettle, if it's not, if there's some left, I like to boil it, but I have a dilemma because I want to finish all the water in the kettle, but then, or at least make it under the minimum line. But then it's too late to make tea, really. Some people say you shouldn't make tea anywhere near this time. But anyway, I'm going to move on to number 24. As I say, I'd love for the Caribbean and African countries, maybe even to network together. Maybe there could be black networks worldwide. Sorry, I forgot to finish my point as well about like Britain, when they said reparations. Apparently Britain helped Jamaica with like funding prisons, and people, it was a very controversial thing. They said like of all the things you could fund, like it could be schools, training centres, teaching centres, or whatever, and that kind of thing, but you chose to fund prisons, which almost is like seeing Jamaicans as criminals or whatever, or it's almost like you're giving back to them, but at the same time it's for something that is imprisoning people. But granted, I guess people who hopefully are not innocent, because it would be unfair if they were, if you know what I mean. But yeah, instead Britain or other nations could help, and businesses even as well as nations could help Caribbean countries, including Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean, hopefully to have their own business and tech hubs and centres again, like places where those hubs could be where they teach each other and pass on information, facts, stats, figures, general info and knowledge to each other, so they share information, help to unite together. I think one of the problems Jamaica has, just like African countries, is like division and violence amongst each other, and I think a lot of time it's political. Like even in Africa, a lot of times they say that there's only trouble when there's elections going on, but most of the time or a lot of times it's not that much trouble, but it's a shame like people want to put their tribal systems ahead of like just creating jobs and businesses and growth and putting their tribal differences aside, which is one thing I respect about Paul Kagame from Rwanda, who put those tribal differences aside and even just made it illegal to even talk about being from a different tribe and say we're all Rwandans, we must work together towards one goal. So I'd love for there to be business hubs and tech hubs. And I talked recently about reparations, only yesterday, in fact, or the day before, actually, technically now. But come to think of it, but that's on behind schedule, as I say. But yeah, maybe countries and businesses could be encouraged to donate to business and tech hubs in the Caribbean and across Africa as well. And again, they can network together and pass on information and like not jealously guard their ideas or secrets. They could share it with each other and like say, this is what I know about tech. I'm going to teach other people about tech or whatever. I suppose dyslexics could do similar. I love the irony of someone who's not very good at tech helping Africa in tech and that kind of thing. But yeah, there could be a global black tech network and all that kind of thing, global business networks and all that kind of thing, which I talked about recently. And as I say, hubs and centres and networks and all that. I think those hubs could be networks where they learn from each other. And so people, especially young people, can go and get support and like mentors and teachers and trainers or whatever. I suppose a mentor involves teaching and training and that kind of thing. So someone could say, I'll take you under my wing and teach you everything about what I did to run a business. So if someone's run a business for 40 years and you're a young person, it would probably pay heed to listen to them. Apparently it's a saying, I'm not sure if it's in Jamaica, I think it's in Jamaica, where they say, he who doesn't learn must listen. Troops from Arsenal TV normally says that one. But yeah, maybe I think when they get funding in African countries and in the Caribbean, it could be used, it could be spent and used more wisely. I have to think like, or recently I've been thinking like with the giving pledge, they're quite secretive about how that money's spent, and maybe African countries in the Caribbean could say, hey, you could use that giving pledge money to support these hubs like business hubs, tech hubs and whatnot. I was thinking about tech originally, but it could be also for business, or business and tech, which all goes hand in glove. But talking about number 24, like they've only been 24 hours a day in a day. So yeah, I'd love to see, wrapping up point number 24, I'd love to see people around the world networking together in politics, business and tech, and maybe with allies like myself, allies or whatever, supporters or whatever. Moving on, I'm going to organise my time better. Number 25, as I say, I'm not a big supporter of royalty and all that kind of thing. I think I forgot to finish my point again about like with religion. I said I don't think it's as free as I'd like it to be, and things like that. And I'm thinking about a point that I'm not going to mention right now because otherwise the video will be even longer. I was going to say it'd be too long, but it already is. But it's something there is something I mentioned before though, which I will mention again, which is like about how it's a bit of a dilemma when it comes to dyslexic royals, because I'm not a big fan of royalty, but I do like to borrow dyslexics, which I only said recently. But moving on, yeah, so they can work together globally, black people in Africa and Australasia and even Europe and the Americas and the Caribbean and whatnot. Funny enough, I've got to admit, geography is not my strength either. But anyway, moving on, number 26. As I say, if and when reparations are paid, and even like things like the global giving pledge, or what is it, point 23, come to think about it, they could be used, like the money could be spent more wisely if Africans would be more united, if black people around the world would be more united, maybe even like using negative terms they've been called and things like to unite, which I have to come to in point number 28. But moving on, number 27, I'd love to react to like the Black Business Awards, the Black British Business Awards, and that kind of thing. And maybe they could do that in other parts of the world as well, and honour and acknowledge those who tackled anti-black racism or things like that, and just give thanks. And I talked before as well about like how if God would answer my prayers, I would say like, please. One of my prayers would be, whatever people do to me, I wish God would do to them, only slightly better. So if they treat me really bad and basically did something really bad to me, I'd want God to punish them, not quite as bad as what they did to me, but just almost as bad. And if they did something good to me, I'd want God to reward them even slightly better, just to be as nice as possible, but also as fair as possible as well. Nice but fair, firm but fair, or whatever, as I say. So, and if I had the ability to do so, I'd treat people slightly better than they treat me. I'm sure there's something else I can say. But yeah, there could be awards for like supporting those who support black-owned businesses the most. I'm sure there was something else I was going to say about rewards and punishments. If I'm less selfish, I think also, or from a less selfish point of view, I think it'd be good if God treated everyone slightly better than they treat, or as bad as they, or exactly the same even. Whatever pain you cause, I think you should experience, and whatever joy you cause, you should experience. Whatever sadness you cause, you should experience it. Whatever happiness you cause, you should experience. Although I'd want everyone to be happy, but if you do bad things, I guess facing the consequence. But I guess intention should count a lot, because to err is human. But I think intention, like my mum sent me to tuition, but her intention was really good at the time. I thought, I'm sure I must have thought, like, my mum hates me or something. Why is she doing this to me? But as I got older, I realised that I think it was misplaced. I think that money would have been, and that time would have been better spent on me learning differently. With people with learning disabilities, I think academic stuff is not a forte, but that's my own personal view about it. As controversial as that might be, but I think you should be in each positive intention should be rewarded, and I'd love to focus more on the positives, and I normally save the best till last. So saying about rewards as well, I know I often focus, like most people I'm sure, on punishments and anger when I'm disappointed with someone, but I should also focus on the other side of things, and I think we should do that more as well. But yeah, I'd rather reward than punish, and I'd rather focus on that if I can. But I think if you do bad, you still probably deserve to pay for that as well, to be punished a little bit. But yeah, to me, the most fair justice system, in a way, just like I think 1 2 for 1 or share is the most fair justice system, like or reward system, like 1 2 for 1 1 2 for 1 or share, line for line and like for like. Sorry, sometimes I struggle to get the words out, but I think the fairest justice system in terms of punishments and rewards would be whatever pain and suffering and that kind of thing you cause, you deserve to suffer yourself. Whatever you create, whatever you put out there, and then you get back what you give. So whatever joy, hope, happiness, and all that kind of stuff you create, you deserve that back. So I try and afford people, so to speak, the same freedom that I want to have myself as well. And I try and treat people as I like to be treated myself if I can. But one of my least favourite sayings, or possibly my least favourite saying, is like respect your elders. I've got to admit, almost to address the balance, or redress the balance rather, I love to support younger people. But moving on, number 28, I hope they can turn negatives into positives. Like I was saying, like I said earlier, like a friend in need is a friend indeed. So I'm talking about like the Caribbean, and they're going through a hurricane. As I say, apparently it's the worst hurricane in Jamaica's history. So I hope it's not as bad as they predict it's going to be. And I'm praying for Jamaica to have a swift recovery. And I suppose that made me think about like an idea for like Caribbean network. And again, like hubs, business hubs, tech hubs and whatnot for Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean, as well as for Africa. And I'd love to fundraise for that kind of thing. And maybe look at the case for reparations internationally. Number 28, the controversial one, I think of like black people using thinking about how the N-word, how people call them the N-word, and all the things that people say about them. Like certain people say like they're savage, criminals, violent, thick, lazy, or whatever other things they say. They can't build things or whatever. To me, that and all that sort of stuff, I think, should make people in the Caribbean and especially in Africa be like, we're going to show you how united and encouraged and productive or whatever we can be. We're going to unite together and build things and put our differences aside and build things and prove the racists wrong, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I'm wary to use that term racism, but because we all, so to speak, or most people probably have some sort of prejudice. Even myself, probably, if I was honest about it. But yeah, using that hate and things like, oh yeah, these people called us the N word and called us savage, and said we were criminal. Maybe we should do and all that sort of stuff. So maybe we should do the opposite. Maybe we should show that we can network together, build businesses together, teach each other things, pass on information to each other, be proud of each other's successes, say positive things about each other, and all that kind of stuff to develop. Another thing before I move on to point number 29, I'm thinking about Celtic as well. I hope that Celtic can turn around the season. I know I mentioned that in part 1 and 2, but moving on, number 29, I'd love to know about whether people class mixed race people who are part white and part black, or part black and part other, whether they class them as black or not. I know in America they have like the one drop rule, and I think they have that around the world. So if you're part black, they class you as black. But I wonder what other people think like about mixed race people. I think of it in a very simplistic term. Like my mum often says to me, like, colour is not like just the colour of the skin. She says something about it's political, but I think of it like paint or something, or whatever. As I say, black people, they say, are not actually black, but they are actually supposed to be dark brown. But to me, they look black. But I think of it, as I say, like paint. If you add black paint with white paint, you get brown or whatever. So yeah, maybe people who are half white and half black could be more united with Indians. But on a serious note, that's my lame attempt at humour. But on a serious note, I'd love to know what people think about, like, whether you class someone who's part black as being black or not, or whatever. I don't know, I just thought I'd mention that. And number 30, yeah, I'd love to know if you have any questions or whatever. Maybe questions about my sanity and why I can't speak properly or whatever, or why I type in such punctuation or write such punctuation, or whatever it might be. But on a serious note, I hope you won't be too harsh, but please let me know what you think, and I'm out. Peace and love.